This is great. We've got all of our fabrics organized for the play space, and it's looking really delicious.
It's delicious. It is.
Yeah, it's really fun. So
28 pieces.
that's just for the bedroom.
But remember, the making is the journey. That's what makes
It wouldn't
us
be
happy.
DIY mom without a little DIY.
What does a mom do when she wants things done right? She does it herself. My name's Rebekah. I'm turning this house into a home to give my daughter a brighter future. As a single mom, you get used to calling the shots. And you tend to be a little hands-on. That's why they call me DIY Mom.
It's a new day. The demolition is complete, and the junk bin has been hauled away. Now we can get started on the next part of this renovation, which is getting the insulation up into the attic walls, the vapor barrier all sealed and installed, the electrical wires run, the rough framing completed, and the drywall on the walls, which means we can mud, tape, and paint, and then I'll have a perfect blank canvas to start designing and decorating. I've got a big reno list of what needs to get done, and with the attic stripped down to the bare bones, we can start building it back up. First, we need to install new insulation. To start it off, I'm installing styrofoam ridge vents. These are the ridge vents that get stapled to the roof before the insulation goes in. They go in between each of the rafters, and they'll be stapled in just to keep the airflow moving up through the insulation so that when the insulation gets warm and sweats, it doesn't end up rotting the roof. So these will go right from the peak of the roof down to the soffits. A couple of staples should do the trick. It's very light, they're made of styrofoam, so you don't need much, and then the insulation is going to go shoved in over top of it, then the vapor barrier, so it's not going to go anywhere. Once your insulation is in the ceiling, you put your vapor barrier on top of that. You can use acoustic sealant to secure the seams to keep it airtight, and then following up with some tuck tape to hold it in place until the acoustic sealant dries. I've got my crew set up and ready to work. While they're finishing off the insulation, I'm going to head over to Fabricville to get inspired for my DIY sewing projects. So I'm at Fabricville, where I'm going to grab a bunch of small samples of fabric to take home with me so I can spread them all out over my kitchen counter and decide exactly what I want to use for which project. Thanks so much for showing me around. I know I grabbed a ton of little samples, but
it's the best way to find out what you want.
Yeah, for me especially, I find like I need to get everything in front of me and put it out and like create a vision board or a mood board, and then I'll know exactly what I need. If I just come in and like grab stuff, it'll all be so random.
Exactly. So it makes it more affordable than buying new all the time. You've got a limitless amount of fabrics to pick from and creative freedom.
I've got all my samples and swatches here from Fabricville, and Sue is going to help me pick out what I should use and the color palette, the final color palette for the bedroom. Each cubby bed is getting 3 decorative pillows, 1 square, 1 lumbar, and 1 round, as well as a handmade linen duvet cover. So we got a little work ahead of us here, but I've got my original mood board for the bedroom, which is a fairly neutral palette, and then the play space, which just has a bit more fun to it with the pink couch and a few more pops of color. What we kind of decided is that we could do a hand-painted pillow. We're getting really specific with exactly what we want, which is kind of exciting. Plus, it gives me a chance to flex my creative muscles a bit and think about like conceptually from the start instead of just going out and shopping. Because there's definitely a big difference between like going out and shopping and being a designer and from this stage of like
This really
creation.
makes your vision custom. And it is your vision.
So it's all organized on these little clothespins for exactly what we need. Before I can head back to Fabricville, I've got some planning and calculating to do. All right, I've got all of the sizes for the fabric and the prices, so now I'm just writing down what I think I'm gonna need for each project, and then I'll get my grand total of my total costs for the fabric purchases. For now, it's back to renovating.
Our drywall has arrived, so they're gonna unload it and we're gonna carry it up to the attic. Well, I don't know, they seem to be attached together. Do you want to do one at a time?
All the hipsters wear their hats like this, trying to look like they're doing carpentry work, but this is just the natural rise of the toque as you do the heavy labor. Do you want to switch with me because that's harder? Or? Okay. We spent a couple hours moving this drywall from downstairs to up in the attic, and safe to say everybody was pretty exhausted or worn out after that. Which kind of put us behind today because nobody showed up yesterday. They're all too sore. But we're moving along. It's just taking some time. With my reno crew taking the day off, I'm going to spend some time working on my hand-painted puppy fabric. Painting your own fabric is a fun project, and it's also a great way to make sure you have a completely unique fabric that is custom for your home. So the first thing I did was practice my drawing on a piece of paper. So I have all the puppies that I wanted to do on the fabric on both sides of here. So I'm using this as a reference as I go. And I'm just gonna do quick little sketches with pencil on my fabric so I can kind of space it out, have a rough idea of where the puppies are gonna go before I start to paint. Because once I paint, I can't go back. While my painted fabric dries, I'm heading back up to the attic to help install the drywall. First sheet of drywall up, 38 more to go. It's definitely easier putting them up on the wall than it is carrying them up 2 flights of stairs. We're putting the drywall up vertically because if we went horizontally, it wouldn't match up with the joist. But if we go vertically, we can screw into the strapping, which has been leveled. We're gonna piece the drywall with a short piece here, long piece, and then we're gonna go short piece down low and a long piece up top and switch it all the way through. So you don't want your weak spots to be all in the same place. You wanna alter them and switch it up, just like you would when you're laying flooring. You don't want your flooring all to end at the same spot. You wanna stagger it. You want to countersink your screws into the drywall just a little bit, just enough so you can get some mud over top of them. And when you sand them, those screws will disappear. In the words of Lizzo, as long as you've got bomb lighting, you can be glamorous at anything. Even drywalling. Fresh photos with the bomb lighting. All right, my puppy fabric is dry. And now I'm ready to turn them into lumbar pillows. So for this project, you will need your fabrics, 1 lumbar pillow, a zipper, paintbrushes to paint with, acrylic paints, a yardstick and a measuring tape, fabric scissors, pins, a seam ripper, a chalk marker, or your pencil will also do the same thing, an iron and an ironing board, a sewing machine, and your inspiration. The way you know how to properly measure and cut your fabric to fit your lumbar pillow in is that you take the measurements on the package, which is 13 by 25, subtract an inch from each side, so one side's gonna be 12, the other one's gonna be 24, and then add back your 5/8 seam allowance. I'm gonna measure and mark my fabric for 24 5/8 and 12 5/8, and then I'm gonna use my fabric scissors to cut out my pattern. Now this fabric has a bit of a stretch to it, so it's hard to get a straight line, but because we do have a bit of a seam allowance, we'll be able to make adjustments as we sew on the machine. So I have my painted fabric, and I'm going to take the wool that I already cut, lay it over my painted fabric, and there's 2 ways of doing this. You can either pin it and cut around with your scissors, or mark it and then cut. The right sides of my fabrics are together. I'm going to pin it. I'm gonna put a basting line with the sewing machine at the bottom of my fabric, and that's where my zipper will go in. So I'm doing a very simple basting stitch. I'm just gonna put the thread in one direction through the material. I'm gonna follow my 5/8 mark on the sewing machine and pull my pins as I go. And I don't need to reverse it or do anything to attach the thread on either side because we're gonna pull this thread out as soon as we get our zipper in. You wanna have the bulk of your fabric on the outside of the machine, and just let the machine do the work. Now that my basting stitch is done, I'm gonna take my fabric over to the ironing board and iron my seams flat. So now that I have my seam nice and ironed down, I'm just gonna take the zipper that I have and pin it and feel for the crease, and just put your pins in as you go, and it'll all work out. Just trust it's all gonna work out. Now that my zipper is pinned in place, I'm going to sew down one side and then back up the other side. I'm gonna do my best to follow the line that's already here for me. With all the bulkiness in the fabric and the zipper, it's important to remember to take your pins out. So my zipper is in there. See, I've got my seam on either side. I'm just gonna take the seam ripper and I'm gonna find my basting stitch here. As I pull out the basting stitch, see, peekaboo, there's my zipper. Now we're gonna pin it and sew the rest of our seams together, and then we'll be able to put the lumbar pillows inside. So now that my sewing is all done, I'm just going to trim the fabric back closer to the seam. I just undo the zipper, flip it right side out, and stuff your lumbar pillows inside. All of my patterns are a little bit different because they are hand painted, but now it's all complete, and that's how you get a little doggy lumbar pillow. Check, look, which one's you? Which one looks like you? Does this one look like you?
1 lumbar pillow down, 3 more to go.
I'm on camera right now, Lennon. No play dates until we make sure that you're doing good at school. Did you pay attention? Did you pay attention and listen to your teacher?
I did as good as I could.
That's a good answer.
Because we already planned and she said okay and her dad said okay.
Well, why are you home then?
Because I'm gonna pack. That's my plan.
No, we already talked, Nathan and I remember we already talked to you about not having play dates until we've got everything
I
else
was good.
sorted. Yeah, but you have to do,
And it is sorted out.
No, you have to do a whole week of being good and listening at your ski
No.
lessons.
I'm gonna go
And not
have
arguing
it
with mommy.
today.
And listening to mommy and not arguing
You
with
never
mommy.
said never arguing.
Oh, I tell you every day not to argue with me. That's arguing with me.
No, it's not.
That's arguing with mommy.
No.
No sass.
You're being sassy.
Don't be disrespectful, man. That's disrespectful.
I'm gonna go pack.
The joy of parenting. Yeah. Honestly, I don't know what's more challenging, parenting or renovating. With the rest of the drywall hung, it's time to mud and tape. For this one, I'm getting some help from the pros. I've called in Blake to help me with the mudding, taping, and to get the rest of the drywall up. And he is doing a great professional job of getting this place drywalled and mudded and taped so that we can paint it. But it's looking so much brighter up here and awesome, and the insulation and the drywall is gonna make this place so much warmer. I'm gonna turn up the heat tonight, keep this attic nice and warm, let that mud dry, and then we'll do our final sand and we'll be ready to paint. I'm often pleasantly surprised by the hidden talents of the tradesmen that come over to help me work. My piano hasn't been played this well in a long time.
It's hard to do that without warming up. I forget what happens there. Do you like Dr. Dre?
Well, I live in this house, we got a slope roof, and now we got an attic that we need to improve, man. I got the drywall up, but it's all messed up. They didn't tape it right, and now I'm in a mess, but I got Matt here, he's here to fix it. Got his guys up there, they're gonna fix it. We got a problem and now we're gonna solve it. Oh yeah.
You rap too?
No, I don't rap. That's just what moms do to entertain their kids. This week, we got a lot of things on my reno checklist completed, but there is still so much more to be done. So click on the next episode of DIY Mom because we are about to take this renovation to a whole new level.